2019年2月22日，世界之音报道，今天，川普总统在白宫椭圆形办公室再度会见中国副总理刘鹤及代表团一行5人。上月下旬，川普总统曾在这里会见刘鹤，双方进行了对媒体公开的磋商会议。川普总统首先表示，我料想，最后最大和一些稍小的决定将由习主席和我本人做出。我们希望很快能够举行会谈。我只能说谈判进展顺利，但我们必须看看会发生什么。川普总统还说，总有一些谈判不能达成的共识，也许是谈判小组他们认为不能同意或他们无权同意的议题。我料想，习主席和我将在最后会敲定一些问题，可能会，也可能不会。在川普之开场白后，中方贸易谈判代表、中国副总理刘鹤用中文简短发言，并告知习主席有一封信给川普总统。随即，中方代表团一名成员按川普提示即场朗读了这封信。习近平在信中说，他要刘鹤给川普带去亲切的问候和最好的关怀，并提到，川普给他发送了一个可爱的新年视频，那是川普孙辈们在中国新年期间制作的。习近平的信中写道，我们非常喜欢他们，指川普孙辈们的表演，很高兴看到小朋友们都在不断提高他们的中文水平。我们多次看了这个视频。川普解释说，视频中的小朋友是他长女伊万卡和女婿库什纳的孩子。习近平的信中继续说，他也很高兴地注意到，为遵循两人在阿根廷达成的共识，双方的经济团队进行了密集的谈判，并取得了重大进展。我希望双方本着相互尊重和合作的精神，继续共同努力和合作。在我们加倍努力下，等到下次再见面时，为我们的共同利益达成协议。习近平在信中说，习近平的信还邀请川普与他保持联系，并恭贺川普和家人农历新年。习近平的信中写道，我随时准备通过各种方式与您保持密切联系。如果您有任何具体的想法，请告诉我。最后，我太太彭丽缓和我仅向您和夫人梅兰妮以及家人致以诚挚问候，祝福您们在猪年里愉快、幸福和成功。这次美中高层贸易谈判于昨天和今天在华盛顿政府行政办公大楼进行，双方都集中精力在3月1日截止日期前达成协议。中国已经向美国承诺购买1.2万亿美元的美国商品，不过，双方在有关强制技术转让及知识产权等问题上的立场仍然相距甚远。川普总统直言谅解备忘录是个没有意义的形式，希望签署贸易协议，否则浪费时间。美国贸易代表莱特希则表示，从现在开始，不再使用谅解备忘录一词，将使用贸易协议 Trade Agreement 形式。文件不会改变，只是改称贸易协议。美国财长姆钦表示，中方谈判代表将续留华府2天，周末继续谈判。3月是否举行川习会将取决于未来几天谈判的结果。川普说，如果谈判进展得不错，有可能于3月的某个时候在佛州举行川习会，届时他与 习近平将对重大待决议题作出最终决定。他补充说，中方代表团已改到本周日24日或下周1 25日离开华府返回北京。川普与习近平去年12月达成贸易战休兵90天的协议，需在今年3月1日前达成协议，否则川普政府将把对价值2000亿美元的中国输美商品加征关税的税率从10%提高至25%。虽然3月1日的最后期限迫在眉睫，但川普总统本周表示，这不是一个神奇的日期。业界认为，这给延期贸易谈判带来了可能。在本次华盛顿之行中，率领谈判团队的中国副总理刘鹤再次获得了习近平特使的称号。哈德森研究所中国研究学者迈克尔皮尔斯伯里认为，刘鹤的头衔意味着他在代表党内集团利益。另一位华尔街知情人士不这样想，他提到，刘鹤此前对美国贸易代表罗伯特·莱特希泽和财政部长史蒂芬·姆努钦做出一些承诺，但大多数承诺与双方的书面文本进展并不匹配。欢迎订阅世界之音 ，Feel free to subscribe World Voice。华尔街日报消息人士指出，中美谈判代表在目前仍有一些基本问题上存在巨大差距。中方面临着美方制止非法技术转让和国有企业补贴的诉求压力。另有知情者说，虽然中方谈判代表在本次谈判中提出停止扭曲价格与政府补贴的说法，但他们迄今尚未制定准备撤销的补贴清单。据悉，目前北京方面承诺在3年内取消对中国保险公司外资所有权的限制。中共官员表示，他们在采取具体步骤进行改革，对汽车和金融服务等领域的外国竞争者采取更宽松的规则，以及加强对知识产权保护的执法等。但即使如此，业界认为刘鹤也不得不做出更多妥协，因为迄今为止，当局承诺的这些改革不会立即生效。而美方的制裁还在生效。一位中共高级官员称，中共主席习近平对中方贸易谈判代表团制定了指导原则，要求外界不应该期待中方吞下破坏自身发展的苦果。不过，川普政府目前尚未因此放弃要中方改革的诉求。知情者指出，美方谈判团队现在的态度是无论达成什么协议，都需要寻求能够落实协议保障，以及实际解决美中纠纷的手段。美国国务卿麦克蓬佩奥周四告诉福克斯商业新闻 Fox Business Network， 在一张纸上写点东西是一回事，拥有执法机制是另一回事。而且我知道我们的贸易团队正在努力工作，确保美国团队能够做到这一点。美中贸易谈判已经在本周达到了关键点，消息人士说，川普政府希望中共领导人的特使刘鹤为北京传达美方对中方改革要求的严厉性，并遵循美方要求。各位网友，看完视频您有何感想？请给我们留言。欢迎订阅世界之音 ，Feel free to subscribe World Voice。谢谢，再续。
Aircraft to express shipping to different industries. So these are very complicated issues that
currency manipulation, very important subject, which a lot of people didn't even think into.
Yes, and that's one of the areas, Mr. President, we've actually concluded and reached an agreement, one of the strongest agreements ever on currency. But we have a lot of work to do over the next 2 days.
Have you discussed and reached a final agreement on currency?
We have on currency, but we have a lot more work to do
stabilize
over the next
currency.
2 days.
Okay. Wilbur Ross?
No, I'm very encouraged by what's going on. I think that the tariff situation is an important one, but this could be a good substitute for it if we can fill in all the blanks. But there's a lot more to be done, as everybody has said. So it's a little early for champagne.
No, I agree with that. Secretary, go ahead for the farmers. Sorry.
Really, I think the work that's being done on both sides is very, very important, and I'm happy to hear the progress, obviously. I think everybody understands, Mr. President, that this deal will be consummated if there is a deal by you and President Xi, and we understand that. Obviously, you have some great negotiators on your side, as does the Vice Premier in that regard. There are a lot of details to work through, but ultimately you and President Xi are going to have to really do the deal.
I think we're doing very well with regard to farmers and the buying of products from our farmers at a certain point. They've already made a big commitment to do that, but this will be a very, very substantial farm deal. This will be the biggest farm deal ever made, if you think about it. I don't think anything would be close because it's China. So hopefully if we arrive at a deal, they'll be buying lots of every form of farm product. Mr. Ambassador, would you say something if you'd like?
Well, I think this is probably a very historic time, and these are the two biggest economies in the world, and if these difficult structural issues can get worked out, I think it will be tremendously beneficial, not only to China and the United States, but to the whole world economy. So I know people have been working very hard. We've had many, many sessions, both in Beijing and here, and I appreciate the hard work and the diligence that's going on.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's going very well. Peter, would you like to say something? This is a gentleman that loves tariffs, by the way. He's like me. He and I loves tariffs. Peter, go ahead.
I agree with you, sir. Tariffs are simple and they're enforceable.
Right, okay. That's all you have to say, right? But it's true.
I wish the team luck.
Good. They're doing a good job. Larry?
I'll just echo, and a good deal that is enforceable. That's so important to the United States and to you. But if you get a good deal and we can reduce these barriers, I think it will be good for growth and prosperity for the U.S. and for China.
I think the relationship has been very good. That's what I will say, more than anything else. As to whether we make a deal or not, who knows, but I think we have a good chance. But I think the relationship is outstanding. I think the relationship that we have now with China is better than it's ever been. And that's being, making a big statement. Our relationship, the president's relationship with me, President Xi's relationship with me, I think that it's the strongest it's ever been. One of the things that's so important to me is the fentanyl. And President Xi has agreed to criminalize the sale of fentanyl. Right now it's not a criminal product because I guess they call it industrial or they call it something, but it's not a criminal product. And China has much tougher laws than we do in this country on drugs. And they don't have a big drug problem in China. They have a thing called the death penalty. And China has much tougher laws than we do, but they've agreed to criminalize the sale of fentanyl, including the sale of fentanyl to the United States. And that is a tremendous thing because, as you know, most of it, if not all of it, comes from China. That would be a tremendous thing in terms of our war on drugs. So I very much appreciate that. And that's another thing we'll be finalizing, hopefully, at the meeting that we have. So subject to where they are, we're going to have a meeting now, but subject to where they are, we will be having at least an additional meeting, and then ultimately we'll have a meeting with myself and President Xi to discuss the final terms and things that haven't been agreed to, but I think a lot of those things have been agreed to, but they want he and I to agree to them in a final form. But the fentanyl is so important to us. The criminalization of fentanyl is so important to us, and we appreciate that. I want to just thank everybody for being with us. Mr. Vice Premier, I want to thank you very much. Their trip is being extended, as Steve said. Their trip is being extended by 2 days, unexpectedly, because they are making great progress, so they'll be here for an extra couple of days. So what would that include? That would be Sunday, Monday, or?
It'll be all day Saturday and all day Sunday.
All day Sunday, so they'll be leaving on Sunday night and Monday morning. So great progress being made. Let's see what happens. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Mr. President, do you expect to extend the deadline because of the progress here, or will you still stick with March 1st?
Well, I set the deadline of March 1st, and right now it's at 10%. And I think that and you can tell this to President Xi, I think that if I see progress being made, substantial progress being made, it would not be inappropriate to extend that deadline, keep it at 10% instead of raising it to 25%. And I would be inclined to doing that. I haven't even spoken to my people about it. Most people assume it'll just kick in automatically to 25%. But I'm the one that said it, and I think it was a reason. I could see extending that, and I don't think it would have to be a long-term extension, because I would imagine that if it took, Steve, another month or so or less.
Yeah, I think our expectation is to conclude this quickly, and if we get to the point over the next few days of making progress, recommending a meeting for you and President Xi in March.
So dependent on how they do over the next few days, I would certainly consider that. Okay?
I will.
就是从中国来说呢，首先呢，我们认为发生的可能性是非常之大，我们非常希望双方成效。
So from China, we believe it is that.
You have to speak louder. I'm sorry.
From China, we believe that it is very likely that it will happen, and we hope that ultimately we'll have a deal.
中方愿意尽最大的努力。
And the Chinese side is ready to make our utmost effort.
I think we both feel that way. I think we both feel that there's a very good chance that the deal will happen.
Tech transfers, going back to the trade deal, we've heard that you haven't made a whole lot of progress on the tech transfers.
You want to talk about the transfer?
Does that still have to be part
Yeah,
of the
I'll let Bob answer that. Go ahead, Bob.
The answer is yes. It's one of the structural issues. It has to be done properly, and we've made a lot of progress on it. So whoever told you we weren't just didn't know what they were talking about.
Where do you things stand with Huawei and ZTE? Would you still consider a ban of
Well,
Chinese
ZTE
technology?
paid a big fine of $1.2 billion, which nobody's ever even heard of before. And we want everybody to compete. And I guess it'll be somewhat of a subject that we're talking about here, Bob. We'll be talking about it. We may or may not include that in this deal.
With what?
Would you drop criminal
The
charges?
Huawei and ZTE.
Would you drop criminal charges against Huawei as part of this deal?
We're going to be discussing all of that during the course of the next couple of weeks, and we'll be talking to the U.S. attorneys, we'll be talking to the Attorney General, but we'll be making that decision. Right now, it's not something that we're discussing. But we'd only do that in conjunction with the Attorney General of the United States, because that is a matter that is outside of what we're doing. So we do that with the Attorney General if we do anything, and I guess there's a question as to whether or not that's being included. Nice.
Mr. President, on night.
Mr. President,
yes.
From People's Daily China.
From China.
Trade conflict have been 1 year, now negotiations going on. So what do you think?
Who are you with in China?
People's Daily China newspaper.
People's Daily?
Yeah. Okay. And then what do you think? The cooperation is still a good solution between...
Great cooperation.
Yeah.
We have great cooperation both ways with China. And a lot of good things are happening. I mean, I think you see that. So many people every day, they are going to make a deal. They aren't going to make a deal. They don't know. They have no idea. It's fake news. You know, it's one of those things. Do they have fake news in China? I think so. But it's a question, are they going to make a deal? Aren't they? I think we have a very good chance of making a deal. But both parties want to make it a meaningful deal. We don't want to make a deal that doesn't. I can speak for the Vice Premier. I can speak for President Xi. I can speak for myself. Both parties want to make this a real deal. We want to make it a meaningful deal, not a deal that's done and doesn't mean anything. We want to make this a deal that's going to last for many, many years, and a deal that's going to be good for both countries. But we want to make it meaningful. Now, with that being said, China has the advantage of having many years of tremendous success at the expense of the United States. So they understand that. And I never blamed China for that. I blamed our past leaders. Our leaders have done a lousy job with trade. Our country lost $800 billion last year with trade generally, $800 billion. So the Vice Premier understands that. So this same agreement should have been made 20 years ago, not now. Because for 20 years, the United States has been really taken advantage of. And I'm not blaming China. We should have done the same thing to them, but we didn't do that. We had presidents that didn't do their job. You want to know the truth? We had presidents that did not do their job. Yeah, go.
Will the MOUs be a long-term deal? How long would your MOUs stay?
I think the MOU is going to be very short-term. No, we expect to go into, I don't like MOUs because they don't mean anything. To me, they don't mean anything. I think you're better off just going into a document. I was never a fan of an MOU.
So an MOU is a contract. It's the way trade agreements are generally used. People refer to it like it's a term sheet. It's not a term sheet. It's an actual contract between the two parties.
Yes.
A memorandum of understanding is a binding agreement between two people. And that's what we're talking about. It's detailed. It covers everything in great detail. It's just called a memorandum of understanding. It's a legal term. It's a contract.
And would you think that that would be a very long-term deal, sir?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Contracts last while they last. There's no term. They last while they last.
Mr. President, on North Korea.
By the way, I disagree. I think that a memorandum of understanding is not a contract to the extent that we want. We're doing a memorandum of understanding that will be put into a final contract, I assume. But to me, the final contract is really the thing, Bob, and I think you mean that too, is really the thing that means something. A memorandum of understanding is exactly that. It's a memorandum of what our understanding is. But to me, the contract is, the real question is, Bob, so we do a memorandum of understanding, which frankly, you could do or not do. I don't care if you do it or not. To me, it doesn't mean very much. But if you do a memorandum, how long will it take to put that into a final binding contract?
What? From now on, we're not using the word memorandum of understanding anymore. We're going to use the term trade agreement, all right?
Okay.
Right.
No more. We'll never use the term agreement. We'll have the same document. It's going to be called a trade agreement. We're never going to use MOU again.
Are they going to put that into another agreement?
What we'll have will be a trade agreement that if we have major hurdles. I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse. Assuming you decide on an agreement, it'll be signed by the two people. It'll be a trade agreement between the United States and China. We're not going to use it.
I like that much better. I like that term much better.
Do you agree with that?
Agree.
Yes,
I wouldn't go into a memorandum. I would go right into a trade agreement. Either you're going to make a deal or you're not. To have these other agreements doesn't mean anything.
That word again.
Because they're not that meaningful, in my opinion. But anyway, I like that much better.
Mr. President, what do you think needs to be done after your meeting with Lynn Patton on night?
Elected. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.